It's green for go. They're racing.
He says go.
He says ta-da.
And Tiger Tara roars away from them on the home turn.
Here comes another big boil over.
Equine athleticism at its best. The king is in the castle once more.
This is in one race. The rest are almost in another postcode.
She is a star with a capital S.
It's going to be a triple treat, a miracle three-peat. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed history here at Menangle. What about that?
It's getting right up on the sprint lane and it's going to bolt in.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Session, a podcast for Harness Racing New South Wales, which is part of the Sprint Lane podcast series. My name is Greg Hayes and it is great to have your company this week. This show is about harness racing, a sport with speed, strategy, thundering hooves down the straight and a heartbeat that races as the finishing line draws closer. But today it's about the heartbeat we've lost. If you're listening right now, you probably already know Greg Sugars passed away over the long weekend, and I don't know about you, but I'm still trying to process it. I saw the Instagram post by Lara J. Farm and didn't know if it could be real. I contacted Adam Hamilton, and he confirmed the news, sadly, and I sat in my lounge room just numb. A man in the sweet spot of his career, aged 40, with more than 4,000 winners under his belt, and passing away in his sleep after travelling to Sydney to compete at Menangle. I don't know if it's because Greg's 7 years younger than I am, but it just makes you consider your own mortality. I didn't know what to do. I just felt empty. Greg wasn't just a driver. He wasn't just a name in the form guide or a face at the track. He was one of those rare people who made the sport better by how he competed, how he carried himself, and how he treated others. I was reflecting on a few of the big race victories he had, a quiet confidence, but no flashy carry-on, no ego, just pure horsemanship. The way he could nurse a tired horse home or slice through a field from a hopeless position. But more than that, it was the way people spoke about him. I spent Saturday night trawling through social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, reading the emotive posts from people within the industry. It's simply heartbreaking. It's quite clear he had respect from his rivals, he had admiration from the punters, and no doubt the love from his family. Harness racing is a tough game. It demands everything: early mornings, hard decisions, and realistically small monetary reward compared to other sports. Therefore, to be involved at a high level, all of the participants have a kind of passion that keeps them coming back even when the odds would say they should give up. Watching from the sidelines on the big nights, you could see Greg had that special passion that burns inside the top echelon of our sport, the competitors, the winners. Greg also had something else. He had joy. You could see it in the way he talked about the horses, the races that he competed in, the trainers that he was driving for. So today, instead of diving straight into the news and a couple of interviews like normal, I want to take the next few minutes to remember Greg. And if you've got your own memories of him, I hope you hold on to them, because that's how the legend lives on. Interestingly enough, in the past few weeks, I've spoken about the relationship between participants and the media. Greg was one of those people who made himself available to us in the media all the time. I interviewed Greg countless times during my 20 years at 2KY and Sky Racing, and even since returning to host this podcast, I've been lucky enough to catch up with him on several occasions, which for a Victorian driver on a New South Wales show is very rare. I look back at my text sent to him, sending him an interview request after the last race on his way back to where he was staying. It was never a drama. The answer was always yes. In fact, I had him on the podcast twice this year. I messaged him at 10 o'clock on Saturday, February 8th. I asked him to come on the show. Greg said, I'm flying back into Melbourne on Sunday morning when you need me, and I'm not available, but how about we change the time? I'll make a time for you. I actually reached out to Greg after Just Believe competed in the Elite lot. I watched an interview. I think Ryan Phelan conducted the interview over in Solvala, and Greg sounded disappointed with the results. So this was back in 2023. I hadn't spoken to Greg in 4 years since I'd left Sky at the time, but I decided to write him a message on Messenger and tell him what an amazing job he and Just Believe had done for Australian trotting. This is just a small part of a really long message I wrote. I said, quite clearly, you and Jess are shattered by the result after the heat. Mate, hold your head high. You both took a horse halfway around the world. Completely different weather, and despite the result, did Australia proud. The horse proved that he wasn't out of his depth, and from my eye, it looked as though the inside horse shifted up the track slightly. I know it doesn't make it any easier or take away the disappointment, but you, Jess, and the horse did a great job, and what it means is that the Swedes will keep looking down under for runners in their great race, because you've shown that our best are more the competitive with theirs. Heads up, mate. Greg messaged me back the next day. We weren't close mates or anything like that, but he was one of those people in the sport who was a complete gentleman and a great ambassador for the industry. The track's going to feel different without him. The form guide, the driver list, it won't be the same. But here's the thing about harness racing. It's a family, and when we lose someone like Greg, we don't just move on, we carry them with us. So, Greg, thank you for the drives, for the memories, and for reminding us all why we love the sport. It's so very hard to turn our attention to something else, and it all seems so much less significant. The Nullarbor on Friday night. Great race. Cam Hart and Jason Grimson lived up to the pre-race hype by sending Swayze into battle. I know Swayze has won a lot of feature races, but let me say this. His performance at Gloucester Park on Friday night in defeat was one of the best performances of his career. He sat outside the leader. He ran the hands off the clock. He looked beaten on the turn, but somehow had the guts to raise another effort in the straight. Massive, massive effort. The winner, Mr. Smarty, that combination again of Gary Hall Senior and Junior. Senior's great for the sport. He isn't everyone's cup of tea, but he says what he thinks and he gets results and he isn't afraid to upset people. Junior can do anything in the sulky, and to be honest, on Friday night, he didn't have to do a lot. He got outside the leader, he waited for Swayze, then produced Mr. Smarty at the right time to score. Huge effort by all involved, and the Nullarbor, in a short period of time, has quickly become a big part of the WA harness landscape. I must congratulate Kevin Pizzuto on his 1,000 training victories. He brought up the milestone during the week. Huge effort. I met Kevin for the first time back in 2000, I think it was. I'd just moved to Sydney and I'd started working at 2KY at the time. Richard Callender was the on-track MC at Fairfield for their feature meetings back in the day, and Richard had something else on. They get to go to Gallops or something like that. And he and Ross Scherf asked me to fill in, and I was pretty wet behind the ears back in the day, but agreed to go out there and do the job. I had to interview the drivers for the crowd that was at the track, and it was a Sunday, so there were plenty of people there. And I had to interview the drivers before the Maltese Drivers Invitation. And Kevin was one of the drivers competing. I'll never forget my first question to him. I said, Kev, what's your favourite win of your career? And he said in Kevin's dry, matter-of-fact way, I haven't driven one yet. And that was the end of the introduction to the crowd. He just walked off. Kev has developed into a fine conditioner of horses. Of course, Tiger Tara, the big star that took Kev to all of the feature races across Australia and New Zealand. But to pick up 1,000 training wins is a remarkable achievement, and that should be recognised and congratulated. Who's on the show today? I want to speak with Gavin Fitzpatrick after he drove Fighter Command to victory at Menangle on Saturday night. Of course, it was one of the horses Greg Sugars was meant to be driving at the meeting. And I will also speak with Rickie Alchin after the win of Pandaia in the Sibelia Stakes. Huge effort by the mare, and she just keeps getting better and better as her career develops. Peter Buckman, the CEO of Harness Racing New South Wales, he'll drop by to have a quick chat about the upcoming roadshows the industry is undertaking as well. So there is a lot to get through. Let's get straight into it. First up, let's hear from Gavin Fitzpatrick.
Try to get into the race on the outside is Boom, and here comes Fighter Command right down the outside, and up on the inner is Ryan's Gangster with 150 metres left to go at Chevron Art. Here comes Fighter Command right down the outside, Chevron Art, but Fighter Command inch by inch wearing back the margin. An emotional victory. Fighter Command wins it.
Well, there wouldn't have been many dry eyes at Menangle after the win of Fighter Command on Saturday night. Industry absolutely rocked with the news of the passing of Greg Sugars, who passed away Friday night, Saturday morning, and the meeting went ahead. All the horses raced. Gavin Fitzpatrick was the man that was asked to drive Fighter Command, and with Fighter Command getting there narrowly, a nice little salute on the line too by Gavin, and Gavin's joined me to have a chat. Hi, Gavin, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Greg.
Mate, an amazing win, but probably a race that you really didn't want to be driving in.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'd certainly give that win back. Yeah, to have Greg back, like, it's just, it's still just, it doesn't feel real still, you know. Just in total shock.
I was having a chat to you before we started recording the interview, and, you know, he's our vintage. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but, you know, 40-year-old guys, fit guys, you just don't expect it. You just expect them to be there and turn up and race, and it's just such a huge shock for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you said, he was a very fit guy, and you just can't believe it. There's no other way to describe it. It's it's sort of, as you said, people. I'm around that age, a little bit older, but you just don't expect that to happen to people our age, and everyone in this industry, you're so busy and you're always working hard, and just don't expect it.
So you drove Fighter Command. Never easy to jump on a horse for the first time, and it all would have happened very quickly. How did you feel during the race? Like, did you think you were on the winner? You obviously got a long way back.
Yeah, he did. He did. I sort of I knew he was a pretty smart horse, but Blake said he knew that you couldn't use him too much early. But I was worried I was too far back. But I was worried if I took off early, the leader would just really put the pedal down and would go really hard. So I thought if I could make a run sort of from the 600, it might be better off. And in the end, it worked. But I think it was the horse more than me, and I think I had a bit of extra help as well. Yeah,
nice little salute on the line too. Very, very tough time for the industry. Like, he obviously very close to the Fitzpatricks, especially Blake. So what happened? Like, when did you get notified you were going to be doing the driving?
Not till I sort of got to the track. I got there about an hour before the first. Blake, they hadn't heard from Greg all morning, because he brought the horses up on Friday night. And sort of no one could get hold of him, and then so got hold of the hotel, and as far as I know, I think the manager may have found him in his room, and then the police came. By the time Blake got there, all the police were there, and then Blake got there.
Yeah, it's an unbelievably tough time for the industry. Melton decided to call their meeting off. Did you hear of any discussion there on Saturday night that whether Menangle would be called off as well?
Yeah, there was discussion with some of the drivers. Yeah, there was. All the drivers and the whole barn was just, you could hear a pin drop all night. It was just a really sort of numb feeling, and but Jess was pretty keen to run the horses, and I'm sure she wanted to do that in honour for Greg, and I think glad she did, because it was just a reflection of the amazing job Greg and Jess have done over the years to start up their property from nothing to what it is now, and then one of the leading trainers in the country, and he's one of the best drivers in Australasia, and so I think it was a nice touch.
You would have come through around the same time as Greg. He's one of those drivers that has got an amazing record on paper, but for people who are listening, just a lovely bloke off the track.
Yeah, he was. He was a lovely guy, and he was quiet, but he loved a good time, and I think just the reaction from the industry as a whole just shows how loved he was really through the whole industry, and to call a meeting off like that just showed how much it's affected everyone, I think his respect went far greater than his exploits on the track. It was his relationships off the track that really hit everyone so hard,
Yeah, like I had one journo from Sweden who contacted me last night to ask me if the news was right. So there's been, this isn't just making news in Australia and New Zealand. This is making news over in Europe as well. It's come as a huge shock to the Europeans as well, because of the relationships he built up with people over there when he took Just Believe over across the world.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And, yeah, he was that type of guy. I think, he just sort of, wherever he went, people warmed to him. And, it was just incredible what he did over there with Just Believe. And it's just, as you said, the whole world's in shock, really.
Mate, just talking on another matter, you're driving unfazed last night. He looked like he didn't have much luck.
No, he didn't, Greg. No, he was, probably not happy. I probably should have stayed off the fence in the end, but, I was wrapped with the run. But, he's started. It looks like he's come back well, and he's had no luck. He should have nearly won at Penrith. He got checked and galloped, and, he's knocking on the door. I think if we just need a little bit of luck and better drive.
Where will he go? Are you thinking about taking him to Queensland?
No. He'll just stay here, and hopefully it might be a little bit weaker while some of the better stables and that go to Queensland.
Okay, what about JOK, the stable mate? I know he won a free-for-all going back a couple of weeks ago. What's the plans with him?
Yeah, no, he'll be back next week. We just give him a little freshen up. I'd say he'll be the same. I'd say he'll just stay here and just race through the free-for-alls. He's going well, but he's just at this stage of his career just a notch below those top ones. So we're probably better off just staying here and racing through the winter here.
Okay. All right, mate. Thank you for joining me on such a difficult occasion. I do appreciate it a lot, and also for passing on your thoughts about Greg and his career. Very tough time for the entire industry, and I do thank you for making yourself available, mate.
No, thanks, Greg. Thanks very much.
So the leader, Stedo, tries to leave the field. On the outside, Sweet Nicky Lou's not going away. Probing for a run is Tay, and right down the middle, Pandaia's coming after them as well. Stedo, 150 metres left to go. Sweet Nicky Lou won't shirk the task. Tay up on the inside, and Pandaia's trying to overhaul them all. It's Stedo and Pandaia lunging late, and I reckon won the Sibelia Stakes. I reckon Pandaia right down the outside grabs Stedo last stride, and third will be Tay.
Well, Pandaia, it was a bit of a surprise to some punters, I guess, because it went around at pretty big odds. But if you have a look back at the form, her form has been very consistent. Her times have been unbelievably consistent. And Rickie Alchin is the trainer of Pandaia, and he's joining me to have a chat. Hey, Rickie, how are you?
Good, thanks, Greg. How are you?
Mate, really well. Congratulations on the win in the Sibelia Stakes with Pandaia. She has been ultra consistent.
Oh, yeah, she has been. From the day she arrived here, actually, from New Zealand, she's hardly missed the top four. She's done a super job against these better mares for probably 6 months now. Like, she's always been there roundabouts. And, it was great to get the win. She did go around at big odds, but in saying that, I wasn't super surprised. I just wasn't sure where she'd be in the run last night. And as it turned out, Ash drove her really, really well. She got a good trip, and she arrived in time.
Just having a look back at her career, you've only had her for about 12 months. I think she had her first start for you back in late April last year. So when she first arrived, did you think that you had a mare that was going to go all the way to a QE2?
No, I knew I had a fast mare. She's extremely fast, but she's also extremely quirky, and the butts that they had her, and they still own her, actually, David and Catherine. And they, like you said, she hangs bad, but she's got a lot of ability, this mare. And, well, she still does hang out. She's done it from day one. But every time we've asked her to rise to an occasion, she has. And I took her to Queensland last year just purposely to give her a trip away, just because she is a little bit quirky. And, she won that... there was a race leading into the Golden Girl the week prior, and she beat some nice mares that night. And I thought to myself then, in 6 months' time, this mare could be up to the better ones. And here we are 6 months later, and she's now automatically qualified for the ladyship, or the Queen Elizabeth, which is called there.
150.5 last night, 150.5 third, the start before beaten 3 metres. 4 runs ago, she went 150.8, beating a metre. You can just set your clock by her. That she can just run 150 every week you want her to.
You can, and, it comes down to barrier draws over these miles. If you're back in the field and you're last and they go 50 up top, well, it's so hard to get into the race. But, if she's on the speed, she'll break 50 one day, I've got no doubt. She's just got to be in the right spot at the right time. And, if she gets a barrier draw, a close barrier draw where she can be handy in the big one in 2 weeks' time, well, there's no reason why she can't, give them something to catch again.
Ash Delosa, the rise and rise of Ash, she just continues to get better and better as well.
Yeah, she does. She, I don't know, it's no secret that I put my eggs in Ash's basket a while ago as a driver. And, they run for her, these mares run for her. And, she's actually thinking a lot more in the last 6 to 12 months. Now she is driving on a Saturday night in these better races, and she's making the right decision. So, yeah, all kudos to her.
So I'm assuming she keeps the drive in the QE too?
Yeah, she'll keep the drive. Yep, for sure.
Okay. You had Luxa Turner go around in the race, finished down the track, but there were excuses.
Yeah, I wasn't super disappointed in her. It was always going to be hard from the barrier draw. All week I had in my mind to scratch her, and then at the last minute I decided, we can't qualify if we're not in it. In hindsight, I probably should have pulled her out. She just struck a little bit of trouble early, and then, the race just wasn't run to suit, but she pulled up really, really well. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm just going to forget that run and hope for a better barrier draw this week in the next qualifier.
She's only had the 3 runs back from the lengthy spell. Is she 100% fit now?
Look, I think it's very hard on these juveniles that were so dominant because they go so high up in their grade. So her last run prior to this spell was just in a 3-year-old in Queensland. She's going to come straight back in. She's a 96 rater, so she's straight into open class mares. I'll use Pandaia for an example. She's had 6 months or longer racing at that level to season her. Luxa Turner probably needs that. She needs to just be against these better mares week in, week out, driven quietly and, season her to this open class racing. So, although she's, been such a good filly to us and she means the world to me, she does, she needs to prove herself at the top level now, and I think she will. She just needs a bit longer in this grade.
Okay, so she'll go around again next week?
Yeah, definitely. We'll give her another crack next week.
Okay. The Lespinas, they love breeding. How long do you think that they're going to let her race on for? Will they want to rush her off to the breeding barn?
Look, she won't be a horse that just goes around for the sake of it. She's too valuable. We did try to flush an embryo this year while she was out, but it didn't take. Look, there's a high possibility that she will be breeding barn, this coming season. But, deep down, I would like to give her 12 months against these better mares because I do think she is good enough to win a feature race as an open class mare. But, that's going to be their decision. And she is such a valuable broodmare prospect that it would be sort of hard not to see her go to the breeding barn. But, yeah, we'll just take it as it comes in the next couple of months.
Mate, just with Pandaia, will she go to Queensland later in the year?
Yeah, that's the plan. The program up there has changed a little bit with the Inter Dominion being on up there. But, yeah, look, we'll get her through the ladyship and then, yeah, we'll probably look to just target the main 3 mares races up there into the Golden Girl.
Okay. What about Goat? Won a feature race going back a few weeks ago now. Seems to be getting better and better.
Yeah, so we just gave him a 2-week freshen up, and he's back in at the stables now. Look, same thing with him. I don't know how far he will go, but he has improved. So, look, we may throw him in the deep end and just see if he is up to the better 3- and 4-year-olds in a race like the Big Square, is it called? The one in Queensland. You only get one opportunity at those races. So, we might sort of aim him at that and see where he gets to. But, yeah, he does need to improve to take on the open class horses, but he has improved every time I've asked him to. So.
It's good to see Glenn Holland. You know, obviously he's got his horse in Sweden, and that's great. But it's good to see him getting a return on the investment that he puts into the trotters.
Yeah, definitely. I've been fortunate enough to get Glenn as a client through Darren Hancock, but he's very passionate about his trotters, extremely passionate. And, you know, he bought 3 yearlings at the Lexington sales this year, and he's planning on going over and buying again. He bought them last year, and he's planning on going over and buying them again this year. So, you know, his aim is to get, you know, top quality bred horses and bring them back to Australia. So, you know, hopefully in the future we can have some luck with him and get some really good horses.
So are you breaking in the ones that he bought last year at the sale?
Yeah, so we broke them in. They're currently out spelling. I'm going to get one, and Darren Hancock's going to get one. I just had the pressure of picking which one I wanted, so hopefully I'll pick the right one.
It's always nice, though, when a couple of horses with the breeding that he bought over there in Lexington come into the barn.
Oh, it is, and, you know, Glenn's a very, very nice fella, and he's a very fair fella, and, you know, with Brad and Darren, and we're all part of a big team. And, you know, hopefully they all go on and be nice horses and everyone would be happy for each other. So, look, Glenn's got a plan and he puts his money where his mouth is and hopefully it pays off.
Well, mate, it's good to see the stable running well. Not as many starters in the last month or so that the stable would normally have, just having a quiet period.
Yeah, well, we sort of through our 2-year-olds, and then after Bathurst, we turned a lot of them out. We, you know, don't generally just have those run-of-the-mill week in, week out horses. I mean, they are there, but we don't have heaps of them. So, look, we're just going to target the better races, and we're currently working through, like, this year's yearlings, breaking them in, and Rickie Hunt, he's doing, you know, a lot of our breaking now and a bit of his own. So, yeah, we're busy on that side of things, and we've got some really nice horses on the compact, like Sugar Pie Honey, and a couple of them will go for the Oaks. We've got another filly there for the Pink Bonnet. So hopefully on the big girls' night in 2 weeks' time, we'll have a few nice horses going around. Around
the sales, does your phone just constantly run hot with people saying, "Can you break one in that I've bought"? Is that how it works?
Yeah, look, we do. Rickie Hunt's taken a lot of the breaking on now, and he's, you know, a really good horseman in himself, and, you know, trying to give him a bit of an opportunity, and he's good at it. So, yeah, we never knock the horses back, and we just make things work.
Yep. Well, mate, congratulations on the results the stable's got, especially with Pandaia winning the Sibelia Stakes, and all the best of luck to her in a couple of weeks' time.
No worries. Thanks, Greg.
Harness Racing New South Wales will be undertaking a statewide consultation process focused on the national rating system matrix, race programming and handicapping. There are meetings right across the state. Wagga on the 28th, Monday the 28th, Bathurst Tuesday the 29th, Wednesday at Menangle, the Pavilion Bar on the 30th. Then on Thursday the 1st, they're in Newcastle. Monday the 5th of May, they're at Tamworth at the West Leagues Club. Wednesday the 7th, they're at Penrith. And Thursday the 8th, they're at the Goulburn Paceway. So plenty of people will be spoken to at those consultation meetings, and Peter Buckman, the CEO of Harness Racing New South Wales, is joining me to have a chat. Hey, Pete, how are you?
Good, Hazy. Thanks for having me, mate.
No problems at all. You're going to be very busy over the next couple of weeks travelling the state.
No rest for the wicked, Hazy. Always pretty busy, mate. Kicking off the race programming, handicapping forums, and also discussing the national rating systems. So we've got 6 areas to cover off. It's going to be a busy time for us.
So race programming and handicapping is obviously a point that plenty of participants want to have their say or want to be heard about. So this is a chance for the participants to come and speak with you.
Absolutely, Hazy. I think there should be a clear distinction between the national rating system and race programming and handicapping. with race programming and handicapping, we can be masters of our own destiny there, and we can tailor programming and handicapping as we see fit as a state body. So we're encouraging all participants to come along. It's quite a contentious matter across all of industry from a national perspective. But at times, I think our participants get caught in between discussing programming and handicapping as opposed to the national rating system. So, look, we expect there to be considerable conversation and dialogue in and around those matters, and we're looking forward to them. And invite all participants for a meaningful, respectful conversation over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so in regards to race programming and the handicapping, what is going to be discussed? What's on the table? What can people come and talk about?
Well, look, we're happy to be led by industry. I mean, I suppose the difficulty with programming and handicapping is how dynamic it can be. And when speaking to participants, they typically look to their barn in having a discussion around programming and handicapping, what's in the barn in that moment. And the difficulty with it is, as I alluded to, it's quite dynamic. Your horse populace is changing, and the desire of our participants with programming and handicapping is always evolving because they're always getting new stock. So we're happy to be led by industry in the discussions. We think that a lot of the discussion will be focused in and around aged racing and the lower handicapping of horses. We're prepared to have discussions in and around that. Equally, there'll be discussions in and around 2- and 3-year-old racing. So, look, we're prepared, and as I've said, we're happy to be led by industry on what the higher risk matters are, and we'll look to discuss and resolve those.
I noticed that the 3-year-old racing policy from 2026, the 1st of January 2026, has been released, and it looks as though there's going to be a big push from Harness Racing New South Wales for this 3-year-old aged racing.
Yeah, Hazy, I think part of our Breeders' Challenge forums, that what that provided us was a feedback in and around that there is a desire from the New South Wales participants to get back to 2- and 3-year-old racing. At the moment, the 3-year-old race populace effectively is distributed, for lack of a better term, into the aged populace. So what the policy aims to do is exactly the same as what we've done with 2-year-olds. Now, it's effectively a replicate of that. When Harness Racing New South Wales resolved to bring the 2-year-old policy in, it was to ensure that 2-year-olds were racing against 2-year-olds, and the 3-year-old policy aims to do the same thing. So what we'll see is when trainers nominate their 3-year-old horse, in the first instance, the handicappers will look to stand up 3-year-old racing and 3-year-old races. And then if those numbers if we don't get those numbers, then a ballot will occur, and those horses will be balloted into the general race populace. But we know the 2-year-old policy works, and by virtue of there being more 3-year-olds than there are 2-year-olds, we expect the same result.
So when you go to the industry and they come up with ideas and you think about it, what's the process? Do you then go back to the board to see what changes you can make? What's the actual process after these roadshows?
Yeah, so it is. I mean, ultimately the board will decide on policy change. We will effectively, after the forums are completed, we will summarise the feedback, and we'll put that feedback to the board with some recommendations. Typically how it works, there will be a theme I expect coming through the forums, and they'll emerge quite quickly. And once we have those, like I said, we'll take those to the board with recommendations, and if the board are amenable to those changes, well then it'll be ratified, and if not, we'll rework recommendations until we get it right. And as I've always said during any forums, this is not about a timeline. This is about getting the right product and the right outcomes. And we have to listen to our participants and the stakeholder group, but we also must consider, financial return and outcome and how it's going to affect and uplift our wagering product where we derive 90%, 95% of our income.
Mate, just on another point, what about the Carnival of Cups? Another very, very successful period, another great 12 months, and highlighted, of course, by Swayze, who nearly won the $1 million bonus, but did a great job to win a $500,000 bonus.
Yeah, I've just stepped out of a board meeting, actually, Hazy, where we presented the Carnival of Cups report to the board, and very encouraging results, conveyed to the board. I actually also met with the Minister yesterday, and he was very interested in the results of our Carnival Cups and how potentially the government can help in uplifting, once again, the Carnival Cups product. Now, the KPI results for us, we saw a 30% increase from the first year on on-course patronage. We saw a 40% increase on wagering across the board. Saw orders of magnitude increase on the Cups races, and look, all in all, a very, very good outcome. I think one of the notable outcomes was the 8,000 on course that we had at Albury. Those scenes at Albury, I don't think have been seen in a very, very long time. I mean, you were there yourself, and a range of other personalities, and the feedback that I was getting, it was, back to the halcyon type days. So, look, the Carnival of Cups is a success story. We now start to, by virtue of how successful it's been, we can now engage with government. We can now engage with the tourism department, the regional minister, these type of people to say, look, this is our product. This is what we bring to the region. This is what we bring to communities. You've got to come along for the ride. And now we're able to have that conversation. And we simply weren't able to have that conversation a few years ago. Equally, we are now engaged with corporate partners having the conversation that we simply didn't have a couple of years ago. So the Carnival Cups will go into its next iteration, commencing in and around November. We'll make announcements around that in the next couple of weeks. Really excited about what the future holds for the Carnival Cups concept, because it's only going to grow from here.
Well, mate, thank you for joining me today. It's always good to catch up with you.
Absolutely, Jose. I couldn't agree more.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Winning. Hey, that's pretty good.
Winner!
That was legitness.
To that I say, all right. Wow, winning.
Bam! Just like that. That's all there is to it, Dustin. That's all there is to it. A winner! Just like that.
And the winner is...
Well, the updated leaderboard, Mr. T was the winner. We both got winners, but he shows a little profit. So he got a $2.70 winner from his two tips last week. So that takes him to positive $15.40. Sheetweb Weaver won for me at Menangle on Tuesday and paid $2 on the tote. So I wiped my face for the week and remain at negative $62. So $77 on behind. Mr. T has to go to Leeton on Tuesday. Bathurst not out. Race 4, number 4, tearing up the sand. Pretty sure Mr. T's found this one before. Hasn't been placed in its past 5 starts, but this looks a lot more suitable, and from the front row draw should be right in the finish for Nathan Turnbull. So that's race 4, number 4, tearing up the sand. And race 5, number 1, Captain of Speed for the Micallefs. Won 4 starts ago and was placed at Coolaman last time out when it led. Draws to lead again and might take some catching on the smaller track. That's race 5, number 1, Captain of Speed. I'll go to Menangle on Tuesday. Race 6, number 10, Always a Sam. Huge run first up from a break in good time. Still on the outside draw, so we'll have our fingers crossed in the score up. If it goes away, it should be right in the finish. That's race 6, number 10, Always a Sam. And race 8, my old mate, Mickey Be Good, horse 1. Tipped it first up, beaten. Then was in a really good race last time out and found it a bit too tough. I've got a big opinion of the horse. I think he'll take some beating at Menangle in this race, and he has trialled really well on the track previously. So that is race 8, number 1, Mickey Be Good. Quick wrap-up of fantasy harness racing, week 13. Cooper, 839 points. Taboo on 827, Paddy B on 826. Lots of points scored in week 13. Overall, Manning 90 on 9,331 in front of Boilover on 9,272 and Larry and Harry on 9,203. Still some big racing to come out of Perth over the next couple of weeks. That just about wraps up the podcast. Pretty tough one today. Condolences must go to Greg Sugar's wife, Jess, and the extended Sugar's family, Ross, his dad, who I've spoken with on a few occasions, his sister Kylie. But to everyone in the Sugars and Tubbs family, my thoughts are with you at this very difficult time. They would be hurting a lot. Thanks to my guests this week, Gavin Fitzpatrick, Rickie Alchin and Peter Buckman. Have a good week. Bye for now.